So the vision for the new hospital that we are hoping to build at the Warneford site is really to try and provide the community, the population of Oxfordshire with a state-of-the-art mental health hospital. A hospital that not only gives us the right environment for delivering the quality of care, the excellent quality of care that we want to deliver, but also a facility for the community that is open, that is light, where people can come for help, where the environment is one that is healing, and where there are good therapeutic spaces, there is calm, and there's peace and the presence of nature throughout the building. We know some of the therapeutic benefits of all of those things for patients, and we've learned from many other places in this country and abroad about how to create environments that in themselves promote healing and benefit people who are experiencing particularly distress or anxiety or mental ill health. The other thing is we want an environment that's good to work in, environment that's good for people, not just patients, but for staff and from the general public, for visitors who come in. So we want an environment that is open, an environment that encourages there to be a free flow of people in and out, that there are no hard boundaries, that people can interact with each other freely, and where those very important relationships between staff and patients can be supported in a therapeutic sense. We've been trying to deliver healthcare in a building that is woefully out of date for delivering modern healthcare, beautiful as it is. And we've visited many different places to look at how they have incorporated best practice into their environment. And that includes things like providing an environment that supports least restrictive practice, where we take account of people's sensory needs, people who might need adjustments because of neurodiversity, and environments where there are areas of quiet and calm where people can be supported by staff when they're in distress. So we are looking at all of our best practice principles in relation to how the environment is going to support us to look at that. We saw one example of that in a hospital in Denmark that we visited, where the nursing office was actually built out of glass, so that there was no real boundary between patients and staff, and there was a sort of openness, a transparency to the way in which the staff operated. And directly outside that area, there was a big social area where the patients could speak with the staff, could talk to staff, could also talk to each other. And it was light, it was airy, and it just had a very reassuring, open, transparent atmosphere to it. So we are borrowing lots from around the world and from buildings in this country around how to support the delivery of best practice care. Plenty of evidence that the natural world is very beneficial to all of us, whether we have mental health problems or not, but in particular, people who are seeking some solace, who are seeking peace and calmness. The natural world provides us with a certain type of therapy that really nothing else can. We're extremely lucky in the middle of Oxford to have this site, where adjacent to it is a beautiful meadow, and the design of the new hospital has been designed around bringing that nature into the building, making the building blend with nature, but also allowing people to freely interact with nature, be that sort of inside or outside of the building. That has been a major theme throughout the design of this building. It will benefit both patients in Oxfordshire and broader in many different ways. We absolutely have an obligation to add to the body of knowledge and to continue to find new ways of helping people, of treating people more effectively, of improving their experience while they're being treated. And we know that the evidence suggests that patients who engage in research actually recover quicker. We also know that centres of research attracts the best staff. So we will be we hope to be an attractive place to work, not just from the environment point of view, but also in terms of the interaction between practice and research. And I guess that's the final point, really, is that, you know, the research agenda needs to be set by the needs of the population and the people and the patients we are trying to treat. But also staff needs to make sure that the results from the research are translated into practice, and situating the two right next door to each other so that we get a much higher degree of collaboration between those who deliver care and those who are researching into new and innovative and improved ways of delivering that care is at the basis of what we're trying to do and achieve. Heart of all research is to make sure that when you offer it to people, they have a good understanding of what it entails and the benefits. And we certainly have an ethical responsibility to make sure that, you know, people are not hurt by the research that we do, and that they are fully informed and have an absolute choice about whether to take part or not. But I will say that in many cases, research sometimes conjure up an image of laboratories and so on. But in many cases, the research we do in mental health is really about talking to people. It's really about understanding their experience and their symptoms and their response to things. So it doesn't all take place in a laboratory. It's often just a face-to-face conversation with somebody.
This is a great opportunity for the development of the Warneford Park site. We already have a number of institutions on site, such as the Department of Psychiatry, the Clinical Research Facility. We have a fantastic hospital, and we'll be working on those capabilities to develop them further. So just give some examples of what historically we have developed at the Warneford Hospital in terms of delivering continuous improvement and new discoveries for mental health treatments. Currently, we have the Brain Health Centre, which is looking at research for the adoption of new treatments for dementia. And that's been extraordinary, not just a local and national leader, but an international leader. The site has also been a place where the early stages of CBT were utilized, so cognitive behavioral therapy, with our fantastic colleagues in the experimental psychology department, but also the Department of Psychiatry. And now we see CBT used pretty much universally across the whole world, and that comes from some fantastic work and discoveries at the Warneford site and in Oxford. The other area I wanted to focus on is that currently we have interventional psychiatry at the site, both within the Department of Psychiatry and in our hospital environment. And that works in particular for the majority of people who have mental disorder, which is anxiety and depression. So the Mood Disorders Clinic has utilized early stage adoption of new treatments such as ketamine in the treatment of treatment-resistant depression. And it's also been developing very novel treatments for people who have treatment-resistant depression, which is a significant burden for not just our society and our population, but those who have this illness, which has an impact on their families and friends, and it really is debilitating for those with it. The other area of development most recently has been the utilization of virtual reality, and that has been developed at a Warneford site in the treatment of social anxiety, and especially with those who have a psychotic illness. So just are really three areas of development: CBT, virtual reality for treatment of anxiety, and mood disorders, early adoption and early discovery of treatments. For example, a research project at the moment, which I've been involved with, is looking at people using photo voice. So that research is asking experts by experience to do poems, take photographs, to have a discussion about their experience of being in a hospital setting, sometimes against their wishes. And that work has been led by colleagues at the Department of Psychiatry in Warneford Hospital. So that's an example. Research is much broader than what people consider to be interventional, things like medication. So research is much wider. It involves people with lived experience. Our research activities have people participating in delivering the research endeavors, but also working on the applications for grants. So yeah, it's much wider. I want to give some assurance to colleagues who may not be aware, and members of the public, that all our research has consent attached to it. And people have to have the ability to have capacity to discuss the pros and cons of research. It's not coercive. Research now, some people might consider, some people are in a hospital setting under the Mental Health Act, but research is not coercive. It's there to work with an individual to explain why this research potentially can lead to improvements, and make improvements not just in their own health, but improvements for the future generations. Oxford Health's Department of Research and Development is based at the Warneford Park site, and we have a whole team who works right from the early consideration of a research idea, a hypothesis, for them to be able to write a grant application, to be able to put that through an ethics process. So an ethics committee looks at it, and ethics committees have contributions from experts by experience and members of the public. Once that's done, we then have a process of going to a grant application where we might be asked some difficult questions about how do we see this research being beneficial, and also how is this research going to be published, because all research, the grant application should have that research being available, the outcome of the research being available to members of the public. So we spend a lot of our energies to make sure that any research that has an impact on improving care is disseminated widely. Hopefully I've just given you an example of the process, the pipeline of research being developed from the early stages to delivery to public benefit.
Yeah, so my role is all about sort of using my lived experience of receiving care from my mental health, and using that as a way to look at the project from the patient experience angle. It's something that I feel it's very important to have for this project, that lived experience aspect, because obviously when you receive care, it's very different from obviously giving care. And that's why we are there as experts by experience to look at that patient experience angle, as I've said. But why this is important is because then we can really see that really wider view of what it's like in these environments, in these services, when receiving care, and what that environment feels like to receive that care, who you work with, the types of therapies you receive, the environmental spaces, and loads of different aspects that come along with obviously receiving care. So my role is all about utilising my own lived experience of my mental health, and looking at how we look at this project again from that patient experience angle, but also including the patient experience voice within this project, which is obviously a very important part of this project. My actual role title is I'm the experience involvement facilitator and the expert by experience for this project. And for me, as part of that facilitator role, what I do is go out and engage with other experts by experience. So again, people who've had that lived experience of receiving services, whether it be, obviously could be physical as well, but at this point we're looking at mental health obviously for the project. And what I've done is I've built and created a forum for other expert experience to feel involved and do that co-production element to ensure that again we're looking at all the voices and looking at all the kind of stakeholder engagement piece as well, and kind of around that transformation part of it as well. So the forum is designed for experts by experience who've obviously again used services to come together to voice their opinions and thinking and feelings around obviously the project, the Warneford Park development. And what we do is then we collate that feedback. It's always anonymous, so people feel comfortable to say what they wish to say. And then what I do as the facilitator is I collate that information together, and obviously highlight key points. And then what I do is obviously send that back to the project team, and then we look at that along with other information that we have at that time to look at the different aspects of the project and the different kind of topics. And we utilize again all of that feedback to sort of look at each thing as it comes up and be able to hopefully come to some sort of resolution with those feedbacks, or just actually more questions about what we should be looking at and concentrating on and focusing maybe in on as well. So yeah, that's why we've got the forum, and it's really important, I feel anyway, to have the expert by experience obviously voice in the project again, and be able allow experts by experience to have that space to be able to obviously voice that voice